Hello everyone, it's Spectrum Art Train 2020 here. It's summer. I hope you're all enjoying your summer vacation. It is sunny outside. It's lovely. Today we are going to review the very anticipated 2021 sophomore, not slump, sophomore satisfaction, Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. Do we even need to introduce Billie Eilish? Pop diva, one of, if not the most famous pop artist on earth right now. Yeah, you already know who she is. I'm not gonna waste time explaining to you who the fuck Billie Eilish is, because if you're watching this channel, you most likely know what Bad Guy is. You know what When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go is. You know about all that. Okay. Anyway, so Happier Than Ever. I will admit, I went into this album expecting to hate it. I thought the singles were really subdued, just absolutely not the best that Billie Eilish could do. I was disappointed. I thought, this is either going to be very boring or it's going to be a flop. But I ended up just really adoring this more ambient pop approach from Billie Eilish. Got my LA shirt on. Does she live in LA? I think so. They all live in LA. Anyway, so the first thing, as I mentioned, that you notice about this album is the dynamics. It is so much subtler and quieter than When We All Fall Asleep, an album that seemed impossibly quiet in the tide of the very changing pop landscape in 2019, 2018, 2017, all those years where we went from, artists making very extravagant and overproduced and compressed pop music to feeling free to experiment. So that also heralded the rise of bedroom pop, all of this. And on most of this album, she takes her whispering to an extreme, almost as if not to disturb the very quiet and sparse instrumentals, which it's actually pretty impressive, because When We All Fall Asleep was already quite applauded for how much it was whispering and how quiet the instrumentals were. And if you don't pay attention, you just tune out, you don't think that this album deserves a little bit of attention, you are probably going to fall asleep. You're even going to snore a little bit. But if you do pay attention, you're in for a treat. My opinion, the deep cuts here are the highlights. Of course, Billie Eilish opting to release all the more commercially, the songs with the most commercial potential before singles. That's business. So I was actually taken by surprise that the songs were actually much better than I was expecting. Kind of foolish of me. The first 5-track run is just great. I think really no big flaws at all. It's just really enjoyable. And this track run sort of continues to A Lost Cause, which is a track I didn't care for when I heard it. It was one of the singles I was disappointed about. But once you listen to it in the context of the album, and it sort of doesn't impede on the very quiet songs that precede it, it is actually much better. I found that I even enjoyed a lot of parts of the song much more. In fact, a track I was really terrified of before, Billie Bossa Nova, ended up actually being quite pleasant. It's playful. It's got this pseudo Brazilian guitar line. It's got the pseudo bossa nova rhythm. As I said, it's a lot more charming because it's concentrated with, which is a contrast to what I saw as some of Phineas Eilish's technical sound rankery on his part on When We All Fall Asleep. Billie Eilish seems to have a more aged, more mature way of confronting the people in her songs, past partners, past opponents, people standing in her way, and this confronting goes past itself into a reflection of what she herself should be doing, what future should be choosing, which is clear on the track My Future, which I really quite enjoyed. It personifies her future. She expresses her love for it, which is a pretty interesting dynamic. And for an artist often accused of being an industry plant by rather ignorant onlookers, she makes regaining her options a focal point of this album, including the really brilliant track Not My Responsibility, which is kind of this arty, new agey spoken word monologue with her singing, her whispering, like shouting, as she addresses people who hate her image, her body, the way she dresses, the way she presents herself, with ultimatums like, if I wear what is comfortable, if I'm not a woman, I'm not a woman, if I shed the layers, I'm a slut, and who decides what that makes me, what that means, is my value based only on your perception? And for me, this progression of Billie is pretty welcome. Another progression I might talk about is that as she ages, as you all know, she's now an adult. Well, she addresses love and sexuality more like on the really actually bombastic track Oxytocin. It is particularly sexy, featuring a lot of Phineas's very subwoofer melting bass tones, prevalent in When We'll Fall Asleep. Transitions between songs aren't an important feature of an album, but the beat switches here and there are actually quite a thrill, quite exciting. Now at the midpoint, the album sort of slows down, for better for worse, but the subtlety and tranquility is greatened, which is welcome. Not My Responsibility, leading directly, the bleeps and the bloops of the themes of that track, directly leading onto a track called Overheated. Brilliant track, probably my favorite from the album. Billie Eilish is known for dealing with themes with a certain clarity and, just clarity, which means that the last selection of tracks, I don't really care for that much. I don't feel I don't care for them as much as the other songs. They're still quite good, but she doesn't deal with the themes and the topics with as much depth or profoundness as I think she could, or at least I wish she would. It's not for me to tell her how to make music, but and this includes a chorus of Try Not to Abuse Your Power on a song about grooming, a song about a creep signing a non-disclosure agreement, which is a bit too true to the story to be relatable to the people listening. Therefore I Am, one of the main singles, being more interested in being catchy, which is this pretty catchy, which I didn't appreciate before listening to this album, then being deep. And that is one thing that I think Billie lacks. She doesn't have enough hooks. That's not to say that that's a focus for Billie Eilish. She's more about the substance, very carefully created verses, creating a lot of perfectly capturing what she has to say. There weren't that many hooks that I remember from the album. It's more the songs that I remember, which is, it's just a different approach. But overall, I think this album, I liked it a lot more than When We All Fall Asleep, because Billie Eilish and Phineas really define a sound for this album, and the sort of way that she manages to tie all of the songs together with with the complicated emotions of our coming of age. I think Billie Eilish's growing pain ambient pop approach is really welcome for me. I'm feeling a fits 7 out of 10. Spectre Mod Train